Tristan was what they called a gifted student, and therefore had to take most of his classes at the local community college. But at the end of each day, he took the bus back to high school for his mandatory gym class. Tristan hated gym because every time he ended up with the basketball, his knees instantly locked and he fell on his face. In the locker room, he tried to shower and leave as quickly as possible, because his locker was right next to a boy who would slather himself in strong cologne and gave Tristan a headache. He often overheard his mother on the phone bragging about how smart her son was, and he sometimes wondered why she paid more attention to her friends than she did to him. As he finished his homework, he found himself wondering how many more times he'd have to crunch out numbers before they'd just let him become a goddamn astronaut already. On TV, they were playing the same crappy B movie about a cult who ate people's hearts.
Join us.
He found it idiotic but strangely captivating. Every night he walked to the top of a hill to watch the sunset. He sat there staring up at the stars for hours, wondering if one day he'd visit them. Faster than light travel wasn't possible now, but one day it would be, and he could even be the one to invent it. In second grade, he took a test that determined he was gifted, and was sent to a special school for STEM education. He learned about the wonders of space and grew a hunger to explore the universe and discover its truths. He decided that one day he would become an astronaut to discover uncharted worlds, find extraterrestrial life, explore black holes, and challenge the very existence of God. On his way back home, he was stopped by the space shuttle Merriweather. It was on its way to a nearby Air Force base where a private spaceflight company was set to launch the first manned mission to Mars. Tristan wondered how it would feel to be a shuttle, pressing on through the grand abyss searching for answers. It must be a lonely ordeal, he thought, but no more lonely than his life now. At the bus stop the next morning, a man was struck by a speeding car. Tristan watched as the dying man struggled to speak. He watched the blood oozing from his head and thought that the shade of red was very beautiful, and he wondered what would happen next. Would his soul move on, or would his consciousness simply cease to exist? One day, he would understand. On his way to class, he overheard trivial conversations.
Facts, like kind of edgy.
Could be a swimming pool. My dad grandmother concert party.
I heard she got a bacterial infection.
He wondered how anyone could concern themselves with these things when there were 11 billion habitable worlds in our galaxy, endless possibilities for extraterrestrial life, and discoveries to make which we couldn't even begin to imagine. There was a new kid in gym class, Bryce, from Michigan. Tristan instantly fell in love. Tristan felt himself blushing. They apologized to one another, and then Bryce was gone. For the rest of the game, Tristan could only think about their skin touching, however briefly. As he showered, he found himself unable to avert his eyes from Bryce's body, which he thought was really hot. After school, he saw Bryce standing outside, and wondered if he should try to introduce himself properly. By the time he had decided that was too scary, Bryce was already on his way. He wondered who he had been texting. On his way home, Tristan thought about Bryce helping him to his feet, Bryce's smile, Bryce's arms, Bryce in the shower. Then he found himself wondering why he was so infatuated with this single person, one of roughly 7,046,000,000 people on the planet. He didn't feel like eating. He was suddenly feeling very lonely, so he decided to call his ex and tell her about the new kid. She seemed confused and asked Tristan if he was bisexual. He explained his belief that reducing something as complex as one's sexuality to a label was irrelevant and unnecessary, but admitted he probably fit within the general definition of bisexual, even though he didn't consider himself anything. The conversation suddenly felt awkward, so Tristan said goodbye and walked out to the hill. Most nights, he thought about the fact that the starlight reaching Earth is several hundred years old, or that somewhere out there Voyager 1 was screaming at aliens, or that in 4 billion years the Andromeda Galaxy would collide with the Milky Way in a million-years-long event beyond the scope of imagination. But tonight, all he could think about was Bryce, and he couldn't wrap his head around why, because it was scientifically inconsequential to have such feelings about any one person, but somehow it felt correct. That night, he dreamt of meeting luminous beings from a distant exoplanet. They granted him knowledge of time travel and interdimensional teleportation. He dreamt of Bryce and imagined a universe where the two of them spent their days lying on the hill under the stars. He dreamt of the man from the Bee movie, ripping at his heart. How nice it would be, he thought, to no longer have feelings. Was today the day he talked to him? Who was he texting? Why was this so scary? Oh shit, he thought. Hey, said Bryce from Michigan. Sorry I tripped over you that one time. He felt as though he had forgotten words. Were words even real? Were they not just a social construct used to establish basic communication? Why don't we walk home together, said Bryce. Tristan felt like the man on the sidewalk. While they walked, Bryce asked Tristan what kinds of movies he liked, what there was to do around here, and what he thought of their school. They stopped at a convenience store and Bryce got an iced tea. Tristan didn't have any money, so Bryce bought him an iced tea as well. He thought that was really sweet. For once, Tristan was feeling comfortable. Bryce was kind. Things weren't lonely when they were together. This was the way the universe had intended things to be. For several days they walked home together, and Tristan's days were brighter because of it. He felt more like eating. He stopped thinking of everyone as idiots. He didn't even mind gym class so much anymore. But he did often wonder who Bryce was always texting. That night, he saw a meteor burn up in the atmosphere and thought it was a sign that he had to tell Bryce how he really felt. If he couldn't do it now, then when? The next day, they sat in his kitchen and drank iced tea and talked about the cutest girls at school, and Tristan talked about space and astronauts. And though it took every ounce of courage in his body, Tristan asked Bryce if he'd like to come out to the hill with him tonight. The sunset was beautiful, and Tristan felt like this was a perfect moment, but he really needed Bryce's phone to go away because whoever he was texting was obviously more important than he was. That made him jealous. Sorry, Bryce said. I jot down feelings sometimes. It's just been a habit. What does it say? Tristan asked. He knew there wasn't going to be a better chance than this. There were bigger things, he told himself. This wasn't something to overthink. He had to say it. He just had to get it out. Can I tell you something? He asked. Bryce said, sure. How would it feel to be a shuttle, pressing on through the grand abyss, searching for answers? Perhaps he didn't have to say anything after all. The universe had given him a moment. For once, he felt as though he was going to be just... I should probably get home, Bryce said, and walked away. And once again, Tristan was alone. He knew he never stood a chance with Bryce, but even if he did, would that really make him happy? Maybe in the moment, but what about the next day and the day after that? Was this really what he wanted to dedicate all his energy to? There were bigger things. One day, he would understand. He would explore the dark reaches of the cosmos. He would discover new worlds, meet new beings, learn from species far more advanced than mankind, and pass on that knowledge to others. He would transcend space and time. He would learn to reject all aspects of dimensionality. The universe would be his, and all adjacent universes, and all universes beyond them. All of existence would be his to absorb. He would live for trillions and trillions of years. He'd watch suns die, civilizations fall, galaxies collapse. He would visit heaven, and he would touch the face of God. He would become God, and he would create. He would create life, and love, and time and wisdom. And when he grew tired of these things, he would rest. He would rest until time ran itself out, and the universe faded away, and the last atom disappeared. One day,